And so now it's time for the intro. Hello, Silly people, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Trey, and today we're going to go over we're back to comics now. For the next 3 weeks, we'll be doing some comics, my process for making comics. We're still in the early phases. We just got the character designs. Well, yeah, the main character design. But before that, how did we get here? Like, what is this? Okay, so, as a, right, for chapter 4, the character jumps through dimensions. Every dimension she jumps to, she gets a new look. So this is the new look that is now kind of the hero image. A hero image is pretty much what like their look. I'm no longer tinkering with the look. I kind of got it. Now, well, we'll go into it a little bit in a moment. But first, how do we get here? How did we get here? So we have Beautiful Beast Kiss. That is this character right here. Beautiful Beast Kiss. She is a dimensional hopper on the quest to get a little gem or energy to put in this gem that is called the Allspark gem. And so she has every dimension she jumps to, she finds the antagonist or something to overcome to get the power, gets it into the little cat's eye gem she has, and then she hops to the next adventure, the next dimension. And in every dimension, she looks different. And also we have her friends that also, some make recurring appearances in different chapters or different dimensions, capped off by chapters. So each chapter is a new dimension she jumps to. A recurring character can appear. And so we have Little Mock Tun, who is a bull turtle with a little flaming tail creature. That is her squire, met in chapter 2. On the far left, screen right, my left. So this is Demon Cat, DC. He is the twin-tailed demon cat. Works for the moon goddess on the moon, who shepherds the good dead. And then in the upper right, screen left, I guess, is Starbot. Starbot was in the second chapter, something like that. So these are some of the recurring characters. And these is what she would call her friends, but they're loosely associated with her. So I started this as an excuse to try different styles of art, because in different dimensions she changes her look, and sometimes I wanted to, switch it up a little bit. Try out different styles of artists that I love, like Mike Mignola, Akiman from the Capcom artists, and stuff like that. So I wanted, just playing around with it. And then it spun off, became its own thing. And so this is, darn these cars, man, every time. Whenever she jumps to another dimension, changes look. So an example of, some of the looks that she has. Some are super simple, some are more chibi, and then as the chapters go along, as the story goes along, she gets older and more, I guess, defined instead of a more simplified chibi look. And so that is some of the concept of the character of Beautiful Beast Kiss. Beautiful Beast Kiss. Right. And in every chapter, there is a splash page I usually have that has this as a win state. When she gets what she wants or she overcomes an adversary, this is usually, there's a different pose for each. So this is, I think, for chapter 3. This was the win pose. No, chapter 2, I believe. Chapter 2, I think. And then chapter 3, win state pose. So again, different looks, different dimensions. And in that chapter 3, these were some of the characters that I had for it. Beautiful Beast Kiss in the new dimension, how she looked. Demon Cat, right, on that far screen left, my right. We have Bunny and Birdie, the two in the center. So this is, right, everything is a process when I'm making, actually, it's a process whatever you do. If you're doing character design, illustration, comic books, whatever you're trying to do artistically or even in life, there's a process going on. And so to get to this point, right, is what I usually try to get to, but this doesn't just happen, right? There's iterations that have to be gone through to get to something like this. So what is this? This is some of the ink reference because I've done this exact chapter, chapter 4, is centered around some of these tiny little illustrations that I was doing for Inktober. This where kind of the idea of Beautiful Beast Kiss also started. But I did these ink drawings to help flesh out some of the ideas of the stories and characters that she could meet. And this was, I think, circa 2017, maybe 18, something like that. So things, right? You never know where an idea will take you. And I like to have an archive, which is why a blog or a website or some place where you can put your art, even if it's Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Instagram, a place to put your art so that, things will recur as you make stuff and continue on. But that's how this was. But also, let's see, character reference for this chapter. I usually have a brief idea of what I'm going for in whatever comic work I'm trying. So in this chapter is an undersea chapter. So chapter 4, Beautiful Beast Kiss, will be undersea. And so if she is a tiger girl, I thought of a tiger shark. And so I had some ideas of what does a tiger shark look like. And so I started looking at what is the side view, what is the front view, what is the patterns, how is it in its natural environment. I find the undersea very scary, terrifying, right? Just this undersea, but I do reference, just to see what things look like, gathering reference. And especially take note of that there are stripes on a tiger shark. Well, it's a more of a pattern that you can see on its skin, but also this head shape, looking from the front of this tiger shark. It's a very blocky shape. And I was like, that's interesting. Also, Chosp by Alessandro Barbucci. Is he French or Italian? I think he's French. Or maybe he's Italian. The name. Anyhow, he made this comic, Chosp, 1 and 2, which I have. It's a whimsical graphic novel, short stories of this character, Chosp, and his adopted family, and how he's trying to learn what he is. And it is so just weird and cute, and just I like the designs and like the simple stories, but it's the art wise is great because it's the same guy who did well, one of the half of the same people that did Skydoll. If anyone's ever heard of that, but yeah, the two books, I love these two books. I hope he makes more, but oh, so far it's just had the two books. But anyways, design wise, I like this head shape, right? Very circular, very cute, rounded off. And I thought maybe if I can combine this head shape with this head tiger, this tiger shark head shape, which is more of a squarish, if I can combine the two or find some kind of a space between these two that could work. Right? So I think of this in the reference gathering phase. And also the villain is, or the thing to be overcome, the character to be bested as she tries to collect these crystals or whatever, is I looked at The Legend of Zelda, the Zora, which are these undersea creatures. Again, undersea, we're thinking of all the things that I can draw from in my process of making art. And so the Zora from Zelda are an influence on how the look of the adversary will be. And also the Darkstalkers. I forget what this mer person is called, but Darkstalkers is a fighting game from I believe the 90s. I used to love that game. I like to play the werewolf character, but that's neither here nor there. And also the creature from the Black Lagoon, looking at undersea monsters or creatures and how that looks. So this was my reference gathering. I try to keep my reference, especially early on, pretty simple. 3 images just to get an idea because I want to keep moving. I can fall into a rabbit hole where I just keep looking at like more reference, and it's not really going to help in the grand scheme of things. So I try to keep it short, simple. Maybe 3 is my usual limit on reference gathering, but that's that. And then we went on to character designs. So I took the little image of the characters that would be Beautiful Beast Kiss is going to be in it. Machton's going to be in this chapter, and DC is also in this chapter. So taking that and then started with just a list of ideas, very doodle sketches of what the characters could look like in this dimension. And I took that, blew it up, just did some really rough sketches again. And of course, in the earliest days, there will be some things you're just trying to get ideas out. Just get it out of your head, get it on the paper. You can refine it later. And so I just kept doing that. There's another version, maybe a little bit taller. I still want that short hair, but the hair kind of looks like a fin in the water, or how hair floats in water. And so then I was doing more and more sketches, right, trying to figure out, especially for the main character. The main character is usually my focus. Incidental and auxiliary characters that aren't the main focus, I usually keep it fairly light. But usually, especially in the beginning, I'll focus on the main character, and that's Beautiful Beast Kiss. So I was trying that head shape. Trying that head shape out for the character and seeing if it works, or if I find something that I like. I like this, but this one, which was a mix of the head shape, but also with the creature of the Black Lagoon, kind of on the fence about it. So I was like, we could do better. We can do better. So for Mokton, he doesn't change as much. So I try to keep his usual cuteness, round head. His body is about 3 head lengths. He's got that very squashed, very cutesy form. Right? I try to keep that for him. DC, the demon cat, is also fairly the same. Right? I'm not too concerned with them. But it was my lead, where I just kept trying. Did not quite like this. This one I like more. And this one is pretty much, I knew I was on the right track with this one. All right, so let's do that again. All right, I saw this, I drew this and was like, I think we could do better. I like that it's kind of monstrous, right? The shark's teeth, using that head, that tiger shark head shape thing, and gave her more shark-ish elements, like a shark tail, the fins, sharp tiger shark teeth. Right? But this I liked better. And this is right how I knew I was on the right track. I was like, okay, this has the elements that I want. The hair kind of floating in the water, that head shape, much like Chosp, and the combination of the tiger sharp squarish head. The creature of the Black Lagoon with the ears slash tiger shark tail shape for the ears. Tiger shark tail, the fins. And so I was like, okay, now that I have this, now we need to sharpen it and make it more refined. Mokton and DC. So this makes the trio. And so once I have this, then I can start to, really sharpen it, really go in it. But we're not going for final image, final illustration, even final character design at this point, because in the process of making comics, right, you're making so many drawings over the course of even say 22 to 24 pages that the character at the end, there will be a kind of shorthand that you'll fall into, or that you're building up to skills wise, even with just 22 pages. If you draw the same characters over and over and over and over again, right, there's going to be, you're starting to refine and refine and refine a character down. So, and that brings us to colors. Right, so I took the characters, dropped in, did some rough colors, because it always helps me to know that, what does it look like. And so I do a very rough, unfinished, quick colors, just to get a look, what do they look like together. Okay. And that brings us to what I have been up to over the course of the week. So we have a more, all right, I took the image, I printed it out, and I drew on top with red pencil. For Mokton, I did blue pencil. This is just, mechanical pencils for the very tighter pencils on this. I'm trying to solidify the lines instead of, all the random scratchy lines. I try to, shaping it more into what I think the final version should or could be. Again, I'm not too concerned with finals. I'm just trying to get it more into a place where I can move forward. And moving forward is the game. So that was that. I tried another pose. This is the arms crossed pose. And this is Moktun's first look at seeing beautiful Beast Kiss in her new form. And he's kind of terrified. But by the end, superhero pose, right? Or the Superman, right? So I tried that for them. Did an example of what I think the hair would look like underwater in more of a fin, like a dorsal fin type. And so yeah, this is just printed out, and then I draw on top to sharpen up the lines. And I do this fairly often. Right? Whenever I do something in computer, I want it rough, fast, light, loose, quick and dirty. And then I, print it out and then try to refine the lines. All of this can be done in computer, yes, of course. But to me, this is kind of like my standard process. I kind of fall into a routine with things a lot of times. And so, after that, here we have them side by side. Right? Arms crossed, superhero pose. And it's from here that I can try to refine ideas on costuming and slight variations on hair. But first, you got to get to this point before I can do more. And that is where we're at character design wise. But now let's talk about comics. Let's also save. I always save. Okay. So, comic wise, the program I'm using is Clip Studio Paint. I've been using this for a few years now. This can be done in other programs, like I've done comics in Photoshop. Also, Procreate, I believe, has standard functionalities. You don't need too much. Just way to make the page, basic framing, and text, right? And something to an ability to draw something and whatnot. So this is pages 1 through 5 of the comic, and of course, let's show what basic comics. This is my standard format, or my files. I have a blank that I turn off visibility. I have my early holder, and in the early holder is where I put most of my early works before I build up upon that with the actual comic page, white borders, colors, all of that, right, is built off of what I put in my early holder. So in the early holder folder, there's, of course, the thumbnail, which isn't even the basis of thumbnails, which is this, I believe. Yep. This is how it started, which is just ink on paper, basic formatting, and I know I'll change it as I go, but I just try to get ideas out onto paper. Below this, I have a comic template page. This is from Strathmore, and why I like this is because it has the blue lines. And the blue lines are this, right? You can see the marks, little dashes, right? It shows you where the gutters could be. It has a little bit of instructions, like for double page spreads, cut on the trim marks, about page edges, tape on the back, and do not overlap. Right, cut right hand page at this line. Right, so we have the trim line, the live lines. Digitally, this process is streamlined because it's not going to be cut. You know, if you are actually going to print this, the printer would cut when it's after it's printed, cut it, fold it, tape, staples, and all of that. So you don't know exactly what a machine would do to it. So you'd have the live areas where you would keep information within, and the trim is approximately where they would cut the line. It could be a little over, it could be a little under, and that's why we don't need blue lines, but they are they're very helpful. And I keep a blue line version underneath what Clip Studio Paint would give me, because in case you ever have to work in a format that is done, like say by DC or Marvel, you would have a better idea of what they're asking. And at the top of this comic page, here's basic information: name, date, book, issue, and page number, right, which is relevant for keeping yourself. Especially, I found the page number because I've dropped pages of of these and gone, oh crap, did I number my pages? And if you don't, you have to figure out manually, okay, which page is first, and yeah, that's a hassle. So to fight against my own clumsiness, I name, date, have the book, issue, and page. Okay. So that is the basics of my early holder folder. I also have a text folder. Hold on. Oh. This one does not have, well, yes, it does have highlight. It has some very, very basic text. I don't even have the tails on it. I am now in the process of streamlining my comic making process, where I try to add things. I want to see it in total as early as possible. I used to be, I was just different. I did things wrong enough for a long enough period of time that I was like, you know what, this this could be a little bit more streamlined, better flow, and you could probably make better stuff if you think about the end in the beginning. And so that's now my philosophy on it. Try to see the whole total thing before as you iterate. I used to be very loosey-goosey, which is my proper term for it. So, and I have frames, panels, and I'll show you in a bit how I make these panels. And text. So we have the layer with the drawings. On top of that, we have the layers with text. All right, and in this text folder, there could be a lot of text or a little bit of text. Frames and panels on another layer. Right, so it's just stacked up on top of each other. Okay. But as you can see from the drawings, when I start drawing, I don't take into account what the character looks like at first. I usually just have like a just draw. Just whatever it looks like is how it looks like. Just get the thing out of your head and onto paper. So this is page 1, page 2, and as you can tell from what we saw of the character designs, she looks nothing like this now. But that's fine. This is fine. We're trying to get our ideas out and see how they flow. Right? From panel to panel. Comics is art in sequence, right? Which tells, and each panel is a mark in time. So this is one span of time, another span, and they just stack up on top of each other, and you're like moving forward in time and space. Again, we have our panels, we have our text, and we have our holder folder. And that is page 2. Page 3, much the same. This one I turned off the comic page below it, or the comic template. I sometimes do that when I'm drawing, especially, to get rid of some of the clutter. Again, text. I have various pencils, thumbnail copies, thumbnail copy, thumbnail. Whatever gets the job done at this phase. I'm not, perspective, you can do a very loose if it's necessary, but mostly I'm trying to figure out just where is the character in space? What is the character doing? And then I'll figure out, once I have something that I like or that works within the flow of comics, then I'll think about perspective lines, making the character actually look like the character on model. But at this phase, just get your ideas out. This is page 3. Page 4, where we switch from her character to Mockton, DC, and the mysterious figure. Right? We'll call them the Mer Person. The Mer Person, DC, and Mockton. And they're having a little tea party. Right? And this is, it's just in the beginning. This is pretty much how I'm not thinking too much. You're trying to figure out, does this work? Can this work? Does this flow? And then we'll make improvements as we go. Right? Nothing, you can change the whole page, or you can keep it pretty much locked in and then just refine it. It all depends. So that's page 4 and page 5. Again, Demon Cat does not look like this for this chapter, but this is just a stand-in. Mockton, DC, right? And a lot of times it's just blocking in what's the character pose. He has no face, no real costuming, right? There's not even an environment, perspective, all of that. It's just, again, can I read this? Does it flow? It's pretty much just my first thoughts. Does it flow? Okay. So that's 1 through 5. But should we go to 6, 7, 8? Let's see what 6, 7, 8 looks like. So remember, this is page number 5. Well, as we delete them all. And nope. And no. So this is page 5. We have DC speaking to the mer person who he is training from under the sea, and he's drinking tea. And he needs more training, and that's where we're leaving off with their interactions. Let's see. Oh, no, let's cancel that. Let's open what? 6, 7, 8. Take a look at those. All right, so this is 8, 7, and 6. Now you'll notice from 5 to 6, very different. Very different. From the holder folder, this is what it looked like. Right? Very simple, very unrefined. There's some written text in here, but it needs work. And I'm not too worried about it, especially at this early stage. So page 6 looks very much like most pages would as I'm working on them. This is one of the earliest forms of it. I have my holder folder, I have my text layer, my text folder, and my frames panel. So how would I start this? Right. First, let's take a look at the characters. Right. Just a refresher. This is what the characters look like for this chapter. And we have none of that here. But they all start off the same. Very rough, very loose. And I've even made some marks on this. Like this first panel, I want to now be here. And then I want this second, well, maybe the third panel, because this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this would be 4, 5. This blank area will be 6, 7, 8, 9 panels. Tentatively. Right, we're in the process of, so tentatively it would be 9 panels. When I was making it, I was like, you know what? I'd like this panel to be above this and this below this. So I made this very rough. So let's do that now. So I'm on this, right? And a marquee tool, rectangle. Let's take this and move it down. Let's do that first. Take this panel, Command T, and then I can move this and shape it. And things, change in size, shape, scope, right? Because we can show importance of certain panels by their size, emotional impact. Is there a lot of text in there? A lot of things can happen. Okay, so you move that top panel down to where it should be. Command D to deselect. I want to take this third panel, which is just the eyes, and we're going to move this to panel 2. Command T, move it to place. Okay. And now, here is uh, a certain thing about comics and comic making is that, especially for in the beginning, right? This is all chicken scratch. I'm not even sure you know what is going on. I can kind of tell, and it's hard. I am not. Command D, deselect, right? At this point, I'm kind of playing with things and trying to figure it out. So I'm not really concerned with how it looks. So I can kind of understand and see where it's going. But for a person who does not know what in the world is going on, so maybe I should perhaps explain. So Macton and DC are undersea, having sea cucumber sandwiches and seaweed with the mer person. DC is training to control water so that he's magical. So he can drink tea underwater without seawater getting in the tea. But he can't control it yet. So some seawater got into his teacup mixed with his tea. And that's disgusting. So they continue to talk. And the mer person goes to then get some more tea. All right. None of this is kind of just what I'm making up in my head, right? This is all storytelling. You might not be able to tell any of this, but this is what's playing in my head. So he goes away, but then Beautiful Beast Kiss, who is now in the water, and she has changed form into her tiger shark form, is now approaching them, and now he's noticed something is amiss in the water. This is DC from his point of view. So he's noting this with his eyes. He's looking towards his right. And so he and Macton, who continues to eat sea cucumber sandwiches, DC knows that there's going to be some kind of a problem. Because whenever Beautiful Beast Kiss shows up, some kind of shenanigans will happen. So now he's bracing himself for that. So then in this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in panel 5, actually I should probably note these. Okay, so this panel is panel 1. This is panel 2. There is space for a long one, but I might just push this up. Yeah, we'll probably just push this up. So that's 2. This will be panel 3. Panel 4. Panel 5. Panel 6, 7, and 8. So, panel 1, there's a disturbance in the water. DC, Demon Cat, takes notice, just with his eyes. He then goes back to sipping his tea. Macton is oblivious and eating his sea cucumber sandwiches. DC makes a little, he remembers that he just drunk the tea with some seawater in it and makes a face. And that is when Beautiful Beast Kiss appears on the scene, and the two then realize, oh, there is somebody new. Macton gets up and then realizes the past transgressions against him, as Beautiful Beast Kiss left him on a beach 2 chapters ago. And he's like, hey, you left me on a beach, and then rushes her. Right? And that is a very, very brief, right? This is chicken scratch. This is how my pages usually start. Nothing, I have a running story in my head that might work, but it is not showing very much in the final, well, the art that we have so far. And that's okay. That's totally normal. Now I can, at this point, refine some of the art. I could also do text, which could help. You know, I could format it a little bit better, like give them space, you know, in little separate areas within panels. So actually, maybe we should do panels. That might help understand panels. So here we have frames and panels. I have a folder for it. And how I do panels and borders. U is the shortcut for panels and borders. In Clip Studio Paint, I think I hit U twice. Yes, indeed. There is a create frame and a cut frame borders. I go to create frame. Make sure I'm on black. Right. So make sure it's black unless you want a colored border. And sometimes you do want a colored border, but the general standard is a black outline or a black frame border. So I make it black. A rectangle frame is already, you know, selected. So I touch within this corner, if you can see it up here, and then I drag down to, and it'll kind of snap into place. I let go, and you can see the blue is outside of the panel border. Inside is everything inside. And you can see the formatting of Clip Studio Paint is slightly different from comics. And I then do with it afterwards, right? I shape it to my own in between both Clip Studio Paint formatting and the template format. So then we go from create frame border to cut frame border. And there's two that you can select from. Divide frame folders, which will put every panel in its own folder. But at this stage, I don't need that. That'll just be a drain on the processing of your computer. So I usually just do divide frame border. And with that, I can now make my frames. And usually I start with horizontal and then verticals. So first, I hold down Shift, because Shift will lock it so it doesn't spin. But I'll show you both, right? So this is an example, and you can see it's spinning, which is great if I want to make like manga borders, right? I could do those, right? Manga is known for this, where they're not just standard block squares and rectangle borders, right? They do all this, which makes things more dynamic, but I choose my spots for that, and I don't want that right now. So Command Z to undo 4 times. Okay. So now hold down the shift button, and right, and it'll lock it so it makes straight horizontal borders. Let's see. I think I'm gonna change it like this. All right, this is just an example. And then, so this is, I'm doing a rough approximation of what I want to show. I think we're gonna give Mach-Ton a little bit more space. Oh, no, did not hold that shift. Okay, so there. Okay, so those are the horizontals, and now verticals. So I want this first one to be very slim. And then the eyes, and then, all right, again, we're doing rough approximations. I want this one to be a large, and then the bottom one to be 3 separate Mach-Ton chastising Beautiful Beast kiss for her leaving him on the beach. All right. So that is the frame and frame borders. Now, sometimes, not always, well, should I do it now or later? Yeah, we'll do it next time. I was going to talk about the white borders, which I do separately. But again, at this point, we're just trying to figure out certain things. So let's go back to our drawing and then get the images in the proper panels. So again, M for the lasso tool, or I'm sorry, the marquee. This is the rectangle marquee. Take these two guys. Command T, move that into place. And return. And then Command D to deselect that. The next panel. And then Command T, move that into place. Actually, I'm going to resize this also. Okay. Yes. Hit return. Command D to deselect. And this panel. Command T to transform, put that into place. And actually, I think this is her on the right, but I think it would be better to enter screen or comic panel left. All right, so let's see if this works. So we'll have those two in the center, and then the unknown figure of Beautiful Beast Kiss entering from panel. What? Now I'm getting all turned around. Panel left, my left, screen right. Okay. Yes. Command D to deselect. And then 6, 7, 8 panels. Is little Mach-Ton having a little... He has something to address. There we go. Try to get them to the proper size. Now everything is, again, prone to change. This is just a rough. Command D to deselect. Next one. Command T. Move that into place. Resize it. And okay. And then he rushes forward. So those are a rough idea of the images and the paneling. Now I usually jump back to my frame panels, my frames. And now let's go over how I adjust the frames. Now I can adjust the frames with the object. The shortcut is O. And all I have to do is hit O. And the frame borders or frame panel turned red, as you can see. Excuse me. Command. Okay. And that means I can now adjust them. The far left, right, on our toolbar, I've slightly altered my toolbar, but the operations button is what we want in this situation. But now I can adjust these as I see fit. So say I wanted the eyes thinner or thicker, I could do that. Right. I like all of this, but I think when Beautiful Beast Kiss, even as a shadow image, right, which is going to be on this side, I think I want this whole panel to extend to the edges. Now I can do that manually by doing that, or there's this little triangle, and I can hit that triangle, and it'll go to the edge, hit the triangle, goes to the edge. So I like to vary my panel sizes and make adjustments to them to suit what's going on in the actual comic. And I try to make it more interesting. Like again, panel size can indicate importance. So a larger panel, people, it might take more time to draw, like a splash page is a 2 whole pages put together. Right? And you want to have an illustration that holds the audience's attention. It can be a whole, like, the whole Justice League coming down on Brainiac or something, right? So, but yeah, size of panels can make an audience look at something for longer. You can make things, if we're thinking about space-time, move faster. I think I want this a little smaller. And then it gets bigger and bigger, and then when Mach-Ton rushes, I don't think I want it to go to the exact edge, but I do want it to be a lot bigger. All right. So let's say we take it to about here. And let's say this is also bigger. Right. And so with panels, we're trying to give an idea of space-time and also of importance. So small panel can have like an effect. Just Demon Cat's eyes, noticing something. He goes back to drinking tea, makes a face. Right? Moktun is oblivious. A shadowy figure enters, and they both notice. Moktun jumps up and is like, hey, you left me on that beach. And then he rushes her, or rushes the unknown figure. And also, I can think about, okay, so if she's entering screen or panel left, right, right. So does this make sense that he is now moving towards off the page, right? Does that make sense? Would it make more sense if he's coming like towards the camera? That might be interesting. Right? If he points at the points like at you, the viewer, like, hey, you left me on that beach, and then rushes forwards towards the camera. Right? If the panel is a camera, right, and we're staging this as a story, a sequence of events in time and space, we can do that. Also, we could move her to say here or even in the middle. It depends. It depends. Always something to think about. So that is, oh my goodness, time. Is there anything else? Let's do some quick text. Okay, so that is paneling, which is the O is the shortcut. And in the toolbar, it's the operation button. And that's how I adjust the panels. So now let's close and go to, well, actually, let's put this inside the frames panel. And now I can turn this on and off to make it cleaner. Now let's talk about some text. Text. So let's see. A lot of this is silent. Disturbance. DC looks. Goes back to drinking tea. Moktun munching on sandwiches. Sea cucumber sandwiches. He makes a face because he forgot there's seawater in his tea. Mysterious figure. They notice. Now I could have a speech balloon with just exclamation points to notice that they've noticed something. And that might be. Or I could just do facial expressions if it's visible enough. It depends on how you want to play it. How do I want to play it? I'll leave that for now. But I do want the, hey, you left me on that beach. Okay, so little Moktun gets his revenge. So for text, what do? I hit T is the shortcut. T for text, or it's this little, on the icon, it's the A. What is it? Third from the bottom, operations for the third from the top. Third from the bottom, A, text. I can hit text twice, and that's when this comes up. And then you start with the balloons. So ellipse balloon, there's the rounded balloon, ellipse balloon, curved balloon, balloon pin. For myself, I use mostly the ellipse balloon. And so it's marked. And now, let's see. Now there is an art to text. And at this point, I'm not the greatest at it. I do, try to get my point across, but and the problem is you're trying to get something across to the viewer in a very small space that then also has to either compete with or harmonize with the art in the panel. So at this point, this is why I try to make everything as early as possible so that I can see it and make adjustments going forward. So if this one just has hey, that's not too bad. So now that I have the balloon, I hit T again, which goes to the text. I click into the balloon. And now there's these three little icons. This check mark means all good to go. X means you're done, and it'll cancel whatever you're doing. And this little pencil, let's click that. And this little box comes up, and in the box you can note the size of the lettering. For myself, I have it at 8.0. I will go as high as 12 to 15 if somebody is shouting, and I'll go for as low as 6 if there is whispering involved. Again, you're telling a story through the text. Emphatic, very pointed, shouting, larger text, smaller text, whispers. So I'll back to 8.0, and I'll just type in hey. But actually, I think since he's going to shout this a little bit larger, so let's go as high as 10. Yeah, we'll do 10. Hey, with 2 exclamation points. Actually, let's do 1 here. 1 exclamation point. Hit the check mark, which means it's all good. And now again, hit operations, the operational button, or O is the shortcut key, O. And now I can adjust the balloon. The text stays the same, the balloon changes shape. So if I don't want it swimming in the balloon, and I don't want it too tight on the text. You want that nice, healthy medium. Not too much space around it, but not too little. So let's save for that. And now I'm using the arrow keys to nudge it into place. So he goes, hey, as he's realizing, hey. Now for text, why I leave tails off, because that's a separate, another step. But if I wanted to add a tail, hit T twice, text. It's the button, the shortcut key is T twice, and at the very bottom there's a balloon tail, which is for thought balloons, and then, dot balloon tail, and then balloon tail. Those are the 2 options. Let's do balloon tail because he is speaking this out loud. And I usually do just under the text. If they're shouting, I usually do a straight tail. So try to point it to the character who's speaking and their mouth. Double click, and that is the balloon, the text, and the tail. If I wanted to do this is a more direct hey. If I wanted to soften that just visually in the tail under the text, I click once outside of the balloon, and then I curve the tail towards the speaker's mouth, and then I double click, and that's how I do curved tails. Curved tails to me are more just regular speaking voice, nothing emphatic or emotional about it. Now there can be emotional speaking with curly tails, but for myself, I usually have curved tails for just normal speaking and pointed tails for a more emotional, more direct. If you're gonna give a command, a shout, stuff like that, I usually do a more pointed tail. But that's just me. There are no rules. It's just whatever you want to make of it. Right? Okay. So the next one, you left me on that beach. So we go back to, we're already in where we need to be, ellipse balloon. I usually just make the balloon on feel of what I think the text is going to be. I usually make it larger than I need it, and then I'll adjust the size later. But again, hit T again, touch inside the balloon. Okay, now you'll notice here, these two are linked, and I do not want that. Right? I do not want that. So we will cancel, and we will cancel the balloon because they're also linked. Actually, I'll probably show you why. I don't want them linked. So let's link them. T twice. Let's make a balloon. Hit T again. We'll do, hey. You fool. Right. Let's say this is what is being what is being said. And let's say we want the text a little bit bigger. Again, we'll hit the pencil, increase the size to, let's say, a 12. We can close that. We can check that, yes. And then hit the O for operation, right? And now this will scale both of them. And that is not what we want because we already have the first balloon exactly how we want it. So Command Z. To adjust the second balloon, we actually touch the line of the second balloon. And now you see this red dotted around the balloon and the text. And now you can adjust this second one independently. Okay, so again, doing text and balloons is an art in and of itself because you have to think about, okay, does the text fit neatly within the balloon? For me, it's a little off. I think I want it just a slightly up. Touch the balloon, touch outside, touch the balloon, adjust it a little bit more, and we'll also nudge that closer so that it fits within the panel. Now, when I was talking about how they are both on the same layer. And sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't. When you do want it is when you want the words to connect. So in this case, let's go to T T twice. Balloon tails. And then we will connect them. So touch within the first balloon. First balloon. I usually do a little curve. Touch outside of the balloon. And then touch within the second balloon. And double tap. Double tap. And you can see, right, these two balloons are connected. So it's like something's being said and then something else is being said. But sometimes you want this. If you know you're, let's say there's two different thoughts happening at the same time in quick succession. So it's like, hey, let's get out of here. That could all be in one balloon, or it could be broken up into, hey, next balloon, let's get out of here. You know, that type of thing. Again, you have to think about where the balloon is, which balloon is going to have the tail linking to the person who is speaking, and all of that. This was just impromptu. This is just an example. But for the second example is when we don't want that. So I want a totally separate layer for the new text balloon because it's in a new panel and I don't want them connected. So then I take that, right? And what it does, the text and the balloon is in the frames panel folder. I don't know why it puts it in there, but it does. I kind of like that in that it keeps it, I know where it is. But for myself, I take that text and then I put it into the text folder. I like to keep everything in its own space. I could put it back in with the panels, but I would deal with that later. I want all the text within its own folder. So also, there's this blank layer. I touch that layer. This blank layer has nothing in it. And I use it, I keep it just because of when I do text. And this is why. I touch that layer. I hit T twice. We're already here, so that's fine. Ellipse balloon. And size it. I make it a little bigger than I need. Hit T again. T. Touch within the balloon. Type your text. Hey, you fool. You left me on that beach. Okay. And this is the difficulty with text. For myself, I usually like to have the first and the bottom shorter than whatever is in between. Right? And there is, again, an art to it. Sometimes your text won't match up exactly, and especially sometimes there's long words like information, equipment, right? And you have to work around, oh crap, how am I gonna figure out in this word balloon that has this super long word, can I use a different word that is shorter that means the same thing? And stuff like that, right? There's workarounds and all of that. But again, I try to keep the first word, last word, shorter than what's sandwiched in the middle. That's just how I try to do it. Okay, let's add an exclamation point. Or two exclamations. Nope, now let's do it. All right, okay. So you left me on that beach. And let's say we want it a little bit bigger. The pencil, and we'll take it up to, say, 10. Okay. Hit the check mark, which means we're good. Hit the O for operation. It's the third from the top, or the shortcut key is O. And now I can adjust the balloon. Again, not too much, and not too little. I think I want it up just a little bit. So we're going to touch in on the text and then nudge that up using the arrows. And then we'll touch the actual line of, the balloon itself, and then readjust that. And nudge this down. Again, we want some space around it so we can easily read it. We don't want it, swimming, and we don't want it too cramped. We want it just right. And finding that just right can be tricky. I think I want it just a little bit more. Okay. And again, why I try to see all of it at once so that I can change things as I develop them. Right? So now that we have the text and the speech balloon in there, why I leave the tails off is that I then work on where is the character placement. Does he fit? Can he fit better within this space in both of these panels? Right. And I think, yes, he can. So let's go back to the holder. And let's M for the marquee tool. Select the thing that we want. Command T. I'll move that just down a little bit. Let's say we move him this way. And let's say we move the text to this corner. That might be a little. Hit OK. And Command D to deselect. Let's go back to our text. And then we shall, you can either do O and then nudge it, or you could hit K and then move them. Move both. Hey, you left me on that beach. And then he rushes. And so that is comics and comic making. Woo. But yeah, in comics there's a lot of stuff to think about. And again, I try to think about it all at the same time, right? I want a holistic overall approach so that I can see it, and so that when I need to make changes, I know exactly what needs to be changed, instead of having to guess and then continue with the process and then learning later, oh my gosh, I made that balloon. This text that I really need in here is filling the space and my character won't fit. Or it's over my, on top of my character, and I don't want that. I try to keep the art and the words as separate as possible so that you can see each without one encumbering the other. Whew. But that was all right. Hold on for a moment. want to shout out to Polyren, I guess. Polyren6445. It's good to see you. I sometimes get really involved with these, what I'm doing, and I don't really have time to to take a look. I'm trying to be better. I'll try to be better with all of that. But remember to save. Always, especially if you get pretty far. You're like, okay. Oh man, I have always. Anyways, so yeah, thanks for everybody who joined, whether now or later. When this is, just a normal video. But thank you for joining me. I have been Trey Hodges. You can find my work at treyhodges.com. Power to all the creators. Next week will be another comic making video. I'm going to try to work up these pages a little bit more, and then we'll go over what I have done on it, what needs to be done on it, how I tackle different challenges along the way. So I think next week will be more of a drawing focused instead of how I format this stuff. But we'll see. We'll see. This is going to be 3 weeks on comics. This was week 1. It'll be week 2 and week 3. And then we'll switch to more Wolverine in September as I try to complete that project out. But thank you for joining me, and I will see you on the next video. Power to all the creators, and I'll see you next week. Take care and keep shining. Bye.